Before the 11th century, the Indian subcontinent was no stranger to warfare. Regional kings constantly battled for supremacy, but these conflicts were largely internal. Political boundaries shifted, yet they remained relatively localized within the subcontinent itself. Then, a sudden wave of Central Asian Turkic and Afghan forces pushed through the freezing passes of the Hindu Kush Mountains. These advancing armies were driven by two powerful motives. They sought to extract reputed wealth of the Indian kingdoms, and they brought a fierce ideological drive to spread their religion across new territories. This influx of Central Asian forces shifted the subcontinent's political landscape toward a new era of external rule and large-scale territorial consolidation that lasted for the next 7 centuries. In 1192, the regional king Prithviraj Chauhan was defeated, clearing the path for the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate in 1206. This marked the beginning of 3 centuries of rule by foreign dynasties of Turkic and Afghan origin. By the turn of the 14th century, leaders like Alauddin Khilji pushed the Sultanate's reach deep into central and southern India. His forces sacked wealthy southern cities, using the plundered riches to finance an expanding military apparatus. The conquest involved severe physical destruction, driven by iconoclasm. Look at these intricately carved stone pillars in the Quat-ul-Islam Mosque. They were salvaged from 27 destroyed Hindu and Jain temples and repurposed to build the new structures of the Sultanate. At the center of this expanding territory was absolute authority. This Persian-style painting depicts Muhammad bin Tughlaq seated on his throne, illustrating the highly centralized administrative style and the luxurious courtly life enjoyed by the ruling elite. This diagram tracks Muhammad bin Tughlaq's disastrous attempt to introduce a token currency. He declared cheap copper coins to be equal in value to silver and gold. This resulted in massive counterfeiting, flooding the market with fake copper coins and causing a severe economic crash. Because the Sultanate relied heavily on continuous military plunder and heavy taxation, economic mismanagement left it deeply vulnerable. When the Central Asian conqueror Timur attacked Delhi in 1398, the weakened city was easily sacked and left in ruins. While Delhi struggled with instability, neighboring regions resisted the Sultanate's advance. In the east, rulers like King Narasimhadeva I commissioned monumental architecture, like the intricately carved stone wheel at the Konark Sun Temple, signaling a thriving, independent state. In the Deccan Plateau, the resistance was highly organized. The Musunari Nayakas successfully rallied over 75 regional chieftains, forming a massive confederacy that expelled the Sultanate's army from the region. Further south, the Hoysala dynasty built robust administrative and cultural centers entirely outside of Delhi's political reach. The sheer geographic scale and dense cultural diversity of the Indian subcontinent made total imperial centralization an impossible task. Instead of yielding to a single ruler, these regions birthed highly organized indigenous resistance movements. Out of that southern resistance rose the Vijayanagara Empire. The massive stone ruins and pillars at Hampi mark what was once a sprawling capital, representing a peak of cultural and administrative sophistication in the region. State governance here evolved into a highly formalized system. Land grants and property deeds were meticulously recorded, permanently inscribed onto weathered copper plates held together by metal rings. To their north sat the Bahmani Sultanate, their major rival. The Vijayanagara kings adopted the title Narapati, or Lords of Men, while the Bahmani rulers styled themselves Ashwapati, Lords of Horses. These titles represented competing models of military power and cultural legitimacy, locked in a continuous struggle for control over the Deccan Plateau. In 1526, the political landscape fractured again. Babur, a military strategist from Central Asia, turned his sights on India, decisively defeating the Sultanate ruler Ibrahim Lodi at the First Battle of Panipat. Babur's forces decimated the traditional armies of the Sultanate, using terrifying new technologies. They deployed heavy field artillery and matchlock guns, filling the battlefield with lethal projectiles and black smoke. It was this severe technological asymmetry, rather than mere numbers or manpower, that forced the final collapse of the Delhi Sultanate and laid the foundation for the Mughal Empire. Under early Mughal rulers, the empire expanded rapidly while practicing a policy of religious tolerance. This fostered a diverse, vibrant royal court, pulling scholars, artists, and officials from across different cultural backgrounds into the state apparatus. By the 17th century, the empire's ability to extract and manage resources was visible in its monumental architecture. Building the Taj Mahal required the systematic transport of white marble from Rajasthan and precious stones from across Asia, all funded by centralized tax collection. Mughal stability did not rely on force alone. It required an active balance between overwhelming military power and strategic cultural integration across the subcontinent. That balance was eventually broken. Emperor Aurangzeb reversed generations of pluralistic policies, ordering the demolition of temples and reinstating discriminatorious taxes on non-Muslim subjects. This map illustrates Aurangzeb's obsessive military campaigns in the Deccan Plateau. You can see the Mughal supply lines stretching further and further south, flashing red as endless warfare drained the empire's wealth and logistical capacity. By abandoning ideological pluralism and severely overextending his military resources, Aurangzeb fatally bankrupted the Mughal state, leaving it vulnerable to collapse from within. The sheer weight of Mughal overreach triggered simultaneous explosions of rebellion across the map. The Jats rose up, Gaunt Queen Rani Durgavati fiercely defended her territory, and the Rajputs engaged in relentless guerrilla warfare. In the east, the Ahom warriors successfully defended their lands by utilizing the terrain. They launched devastating naval ambushes from light wooden boats against heavier Mughal transport vessels on the Brahmaputra River. In the northwest, continuous pressure from the state forced the Sikh faith to adapt, transforming into the highly militarized Khalsa, which would eventually form the bedrock of the Sikh empire. Mughal pressure inadvertently transformed local regional groups into highly organized, militarized societies with distinct religious and ethnic identities. Amidst centuries of continuous warfare, Indian society survived through decentralized systems. Powerful defensive fortifications with thick stone walls and round bastions served as secure hubs for local administration, keeping civilian life functioning during sieges. This visualization shows Todar Mal dividing agricultural territory into geometric grids to index crop yields and fix tax revenue. The map then shifts to the Hundi system. Glowing nodes show where merchant guilds safely transferred paper credit across hostile borders without risking gold to robbers. The continuity of Indian civilization during this period depended on these decentralized systems of trust and administration that functioned independently of the shifting political borders.